In today's episode of Hands on Plants, we're diving into the world of seeds, the quiet powerhouses behind ecosystem restoration. I'm taking you behind the scenes at the South Sound Prairies seed farm, where thousands of pounds of native wildflower seeds are grown each year to bring one of the rarest ecosystems in the Pacific Northwest back to life, the prairies. We'll get an exclusive look with Justine Mischka at how it all happens, from wild seed collection to harvest to storage. You'll see tractors in action, ingenious seed cleaning machines, and meet the unspoken heroes making prairie restoration possible. The very first thing we're going to be looking at is how they harvest seeds on the farm. There are a lot of different methods for this, so let's jump in.
This species is Erigeron speciosus, showy fleabane. It is a perennial, it's kind of a later bloomer, and then it's got, kind of like we were talking about inside with the deep earter, these really fluffy, pappusy akene seed heads. And in order to not maybe combine this whole thing, and we would then take all the flowers that aren't ripe at all, this tractor implement behind us here, the flail vacuum, drives over the beds, and you can do it multiple times, and it will only harvest what is fluffy and loose and ripe in order to only harvest those seeds that are ready right now. And so the front part of the implement that she's driving has a vacuum in it, and it's sucking up all of those papa seeds and just stores them in there. And then when she will drive to one of our drying sheds, she'll just release all the seeds that are ripe.
This seed flail vacuum really fascinated me, so I just had to get a look inside to see how it actually works.
It's like a street sweeper.
It is. So it's like
It's a seed sweeper.
if you think about like a carpet vacuum cleaner with bristle brushes, it's basically the same thing. So it's like bristle and sucking up. So the idea is like pappus will be gently agitated off the seed heads and then get sucked up.
Now it's time to head into the giant greenhouses where they dry their seeds. Inside, there are seed bunk beds filled with unclean seeds. This is where they put the seeds directly after harvesting them to fully dry and get them ready to be cleaned. As soon as we headed in, Annika was already dumping the Erigeron seeds she had vacuumed up earlier, so of course we had to go see.
Wow, that's a lot of seeds.
Yeah.
So we've actually got 2 tarps this big of this one species.
All the individual seeds, and there's lots of petals in here, but when they go through the debearder, all of these little awns will be snapped off, so then our seeds will look like that when they're clean.
So tiny.
Mm-hmm.
We headed out to the field to see the seed vacuumers in action, but ran into some plant friends on the way.
These are for the endangered silver spot butterfly. You'll notice that we've got these tarps in between the species. This is something we have on maybe a fourth or a third of the farm, and it does act as like a weed suppression, obviously. You can imagine any home gardeners, but primarily we use the tarps as a way to capture seeds for any that either ripen in fall or anything in the pea family that like dehisces and shatters itself all over. So when these are ready to be harvested, we make sure the tarps are pretty clean, there's no weed seeds or other seeds on them, and then we will come through here. And when there's seeds on the tarps, there's 1 seed here right now.
Oh yeah.
Not very many, but the tarps catch them, and then we can come with either vacuums or brooms and sweep up all the seeds.
The workers are using modified leaf blowers to vacuum fallen seeds off the tarp. Today, they are vacuuming up grand colomia seeds because there is rain in the forecast, and colomia seeds absorb water like chia seeds, as Justine tells me. As we approach, they are finishing up and coming in to dump their bags into the seed collection bin. Let's take a look. The thing about vacuumed seeds is that you also capture a lot of dust in there, and that's why the workers have to wear masks. I'm starting to notice that there is just a lot of dust involved in this whole business. If, like me, you were wondering how in the world they were going to separate out all of that dust, here's your answer. Mesh reusable grocery bags, and of course, more dust masks.
So this whole 6 rows is Gaillardia aristata, blanket flower. We have this net over the whole thing because every single seed, if we let them, will get eaten by goldfinches.
Oh my gosh.
Which is great for the goldfinches, but we do want some to be able to use in prairie restoration. So if you want to come in here. And so these we hand harvest. So the last method of seed harvesting that we haven't gotten to yet is simply the original way of seed harvesting, hand clipping. So we spend a few hours, a couple times a week. We all just pick a row, walk all the way up and down, harvest all the ripe ones. Takes a lot of time. It's really fun though. You get to know the plants really well. This species smells like sage kind of ish, like really savory
Oh,
and,
wow.
and herby. It's
Yeah.
wonderful. It's a beautiful plant. I think hand harvesting is a great way to get to know a species really well.
Talk about a good native plant for folks to put in their yard.
Yes, they're so showy. For some crops that all ripen around the same time, we're able to use the combine to just cut the seed heads in the field, which is a really efficient way to harvest seeds, but isn't necessarily the most genetically diverse if there are species that ripen over the course of several months. So we only combine what we can, and if there's a large seed window, we do a different technique. A lot of our seed methods of harvest are informed by ensuring the genetic quality and diversity of the seeds that we're growing. So if they set seed over the course of a long time, we want to be harvesting the very first seeds that fall and every one in between, and the last ones, making sure they're not just sitting outside for too long, getting too hot, getting too wet.
This is the flame weeder, which literally throws fire to kill weeds. You can see the propane tanks on top of it. And this is something that I really wanted to see in action, but of course it can't be used in August when fire danger is super high. Here we are at the first greenhouse where the larger seed heads are dried. There are fans going to keep it from getting too hot inside.
So the drying sheds operate as both a place to store the seeds when we're in between those harvests, like we were talking about, we could do 3 to 8 or more times. But also a lot of the seeds have some amount of moisture, and we want them to be in dormancy because they're going to not be used for at least until this fall or potentially the next one. So we want them to get a really hard, dry cure on them so that they can be dormant for probably a year. We spend half an hour in the morning and a half an hour in the afternoon every day stirring them, which just to give them some airflow and so they don't, like, the bottom part of this doesn't mold. So we will
Just like you would dry herbs, really.
just moving them around.
Yeah.
And these ones, so these are all of the Gaillardia that I was showing you how we hand harvest. This is how much of it we've already harvested, and you saw that the beds are at least still half full.
That's so many seeds.
So we get a lot of seeds. Last year, between all of our farm crops, we harvested over 1,000 pounds of seeds. Wow. Post-cleaning. We are really making quite a lot of seeds available to the public and for use for prairie restoration. And it's something that you just could not do with wild seed. You could never harvest that much wild seed, especially ethically, but even just with what's available. We're so lucky that we have volunteers who support us with the wild collection program by starting and finding the seeds. That just kickstarts the farm, and then we're able to maybe get a couple grams of a species every year, and we'll get a couple from a couple different places, and those dozen or so grams in a few years' time can turn into 50 pounds of seeds.
This is not just about having pretty wildflowers to look at. Justine revealed another layer of why producing these seeds is so important.
A lot of prairie species and what we're growing here are connected to either some sort of endangered pollinator or bird, or the plants themselves are endangered or pre-listed. This is Plantago lanceolata, which is English plantain. It's the one non-native that we grow. And it's a pseudo-host for the Taylor's checker spot butterfly. The Taylor's checker spot butterfly is endangered, and it has its native host, the Castanea species, are also hard to establish and harder to find on the prairies than the butterfly conservation specialists would like to be able to do these butterfly releases. So one solution to that is this English plantain is a great pseudo-host to establish on prairies for specifically the Taylor's checker spot butterfly, because they captive rear those butterflies and then release them, and they need, while the Castanea species are maybe being established or recovering, they need hosts to eat as soon as they wake up.
The second greenhouse has seed drying racks filled with seeds in their first stage of drying.
We've got probably about 20 different species of seeds in here right now, drying and curing. You came at a great time of year seed harvest wise. We're really in the busiest seed time right now, which is really exciting. We're gearing up to get into prescribed fire season on the prairies. May is when prairies are the most beautiful, but this time of year there's a lot of really exciting restoration work to be done, doing prescribed fire, setting native seeds, and then once it starts raining we can also plug in the ground with plugs that we will grow from seed. A lot of the work that makes prairies really beautiful in May starts now and is through the germination season of the winter.
You said thousands of pounds of seeds. I was having trouble picturing how much material that would be.
Yeah.
And it's a lot.
Yeah, and this is not even, I mean, it's a good depiction of like the bulk material, but like you can imagine how much more dense these will get once we remove all of the apis, and then it'll just be seeds. Species are, due to the nature that prairies are becoming rare, all of these species are in some level rare for the most part, and some of them are really rare. And to be someone who's lucky enough to get to know the plants really well and watch them through their life cycle and know that there are more of them now because of what we're doing is just like the most exciting thing. It's just so fun.
Once the seeds are totally dry, they need to be cleaned. Katie, one of the seed specialists, is going to show us some of the awesome machines that she uses to do this.
Yeah, we have Colintia parviflora here, which is a kind of really pretty seed. So this started as it came here from the farm after being processed at the farm in like 5 full of these trash cans full, 5 of those. Wow. And then they went through that blue machine right behind you.
This large machine is called the Eliminator, and it allows small seeds to fall through while larger pieces get filtered out. There are different screen sizes to match the seed size. Katie fired up this smaller version of the Eliminator for us, which separated the Colintia seeds from the chaff extremely efficiently, but it was super, super squeaky. The clean seeds come out in this little drawer. In order to clean these balsam root seeds, we are going to fire up my very favorite machine of the whole tour, the air column. This separates the heavier, viable seeds from the lighter, non-viable seeds using a vacuum. The seeds first drop into a column of upward moving air. The light seeds go up this column and are sorted into 2 categories. These seeds are lighter because they are not viable and don't have like all the seed equipment inside of them. Viable seeds, which are heavier, just drop straight down into this collection basket. Next, we headed to the seed storage facility where they keep seeds until they go out to the prairies. It's essentially a giant refrigerator inside a shipping container.
This is our seed storage. It also serves as seed storage for the surrounding community that does prairie restoration. Okay. So we have our wild seed, our farm seed that is for sale, and we also store partner seeds so they can come in here and have a safe place to store their seed and access community seed. The seed farm has been a joint effort to fund it and start it from a couple government agencies. This seed storage is where all of our seeds live. We have thousands of pounds of seed in here, which is just like an astronomical amount, considering a lot of native seed is like really, really tiny.
So these are our wild collected bins. We are really, really lucky to have a seed specialist on staff who manages the Wild Collect program, but also we're supported a lot by community members who volunteer their time on Thursdays, as well as on Tuesdays to clean the wild seed. The members on Thursdays go out and, beginning in the spring, scout for wild populations of all of the species that Annika has decided for that year we need to wild collect. So we start scouting them. We use GPS software to record where they were and then go back when they're setting seed and harvest a small portion, somewhere between 10 and 25%, depending on the species, and that is what's deemed by other seed and plant specialists for endangered species is like a healthy amount of seeds to wild collect. And that is where all the seeds at the farm start because of our wonderful volunteers. And so we record where they come from on all of these, what year, what ecoregion they're from, and what even down to the prairie. So that we know that we have a diverse seed source to start at the farm. When we're putting farm beds into the ground at the farm, we want to ensure that we're using seeds from multiple prairies here in our own ecoregion to ensure that we are growing all of the possible genetic traits that exist in the wild, maybe a little more shade tolerant, a little more deep in a swale and like a little wetter, a little bit up higher, like a little drier. Those like micro adaptations we want to ensure that we're getting with our wild collected seeds. So that is why we have so many wonderful folks going out a lot and getting a little bit from a lot of little places.
Maybe we should do like our smallest
Our
seed
biggest
and our
and
biggest
smallest.
seed.
That's how heavy they are.
A lot of partners ask like how many pounds of seeds we grow a year, and it's about 1,000, but I don't find that to be like a good answer because some of our seeds are really big and really heavy, like lupins, but then seeds per pound, it's not that many seeds because of the weight of it. But then you have something like the heuchera, which is the smallest and, well, one of the smallest and lightest seeds we grow, where like this whole bag is probably a pound. It's really light. And then the seeds are just like dust.
Wow.
Yeah. So like a pound of heuchera seed could be like 1 billion seeds. I made that number up, but I mean, who knows what it is?
Practically a billion.
Practically 1 billion. Well, a pound of lupin seeds could be like a couple thousand. All of our seeds are also tested. We do a purity test, a germination test, and we test for noxious weed seed that's in, and all other seed that's present in our seed. Castanea levisecta, this is a formerly endangered species. It just got delisted due to recovery. But I think like 2 years ago, this was totally endangered. And it's one of the trickiest seeds we grow because it's a hemiparasitic plant, so it needs a host plant to survive, but also it needs to be in a fire environment to grow. So we soak our seeds in smoke water so they like think that they've gone through a fire. And it works pretty well, but it's really hard to germinate these seeds. But the seeds are really little.
Oh, they are really little. Tiny, tiny.
We're really lucky to be a part of such a community that has invested so much time, and now the prairies are in a place that we can appreciate them, and we can only make them better with prescribed fire and setting seed. It's a labor of love for sure, especially in the beginning restoration years, pulling broom.
One of our volunteers, who was like a long-term volunteer, was pulling broom at Glacial, and it was like way over his head, and then like out of nowhere, a woman on a horse came up, and they fell in love, and they're married now. And they're both long-term volunteers.
What?
But he was like lost in the Scotch broom, and she like came up on her horse. And yeah, the prairies are for romance.
That's so sweet.
Hella cute.
Thanks for that. That'll be great emotional intrigue.
Yeah, find your true love, volunteer at the prairies. Our full-time crew is me, the farm manager, and 4 full-time specialists. We are all women. We run and operate the farm by ourselves. We have management in California, and they are also 2 women. But yeah, and then we have 5 seasonal people. For the most part, we are women run and operated. Yeah, we love like a bog, and that's why we're in this. And it's like, great, that's a cool bog.
Next, we headed to the greenhouses where they germinate some seeds and create plugs for clients. This is a smaller part of their operation, but it is still important to add some mature plants on sites along with the seeds.
A lot of the plants that are in here will go back to the seed farm. So they're perennial plants that we establish first from seed in plugs so that they can get like a year or 2, depending on the species, of roots, and then we will put them in ground in rows at the farm. Then a lot of species in here also, like these balsam root, for example, are plugs that we grow from farmed seed that you just saw getting cleaned, that we will grow for our community partners.
The last stop on our tour was the amplification beds, which is where they plant wild collected seeds in order to grow them out and produce enough seed to plant the farm beds.
Electric fence, so don't touch it?
It is hot, yes. So we've got some of the same species that we have here that we did at the seed farm, like this Clarkia amina. And this is, I think, a year 2 bed. So last year, we started it from wild seed. And from the amount of seeds that we're able to harvest just from here, we can kind of like probably triple 5 times the amount of wild seed, and then from that, after a couple years of amplification beds, we're able to have enough to start a full, huge farm bed with the wild seed.
So you're kind of, it's like a sourdough starter.
Yes, yeah, we're doing it incrementally, so we don't need these like huge amounts of wild seed at any one time.
Yeah.
If you're ever interested in getting involved with prairie work in the South Puget Sound area, if you want to join us for a volunteer opportunity, we do volunteer events every Tuesday on the prairies, like Glacial Heritage Preserve, if you've ever been able to come for Prairie Appreciation Day. It's a beautiful 600-acre preserve. It's over 1,000 acres, but about 600 of those acres are really high quality prairie habitat because of all the Scotch broom removal for so many years there. And if you want to be a part of the volunteer restoration community, you can help us do things like plant native balsam roots into the ground, or remove Scotch broom, or burn some of the woody debris to keep the prairies nice and sunny and open. We also have the Thursday Wild Collect program. Volunteers join Katie, our seeds cleaning specialist, to go out on the prairies and harvest some of these species in source populations, a few seeds, and that's how we get all of these plugs ultimately start from the Wild Collect program.
Seeing all the steps that go into growing, cleaning, and storing native seed really gives me a new appreciation for how much work it takes to restore prairies here in the South Sound. Huge thanks to Justine and the team at the Seed Farm for letting us peek behind the scenes. If you'd like to see the extended cut of this tour with more conversation, more tools, and more detail, that version of it is available on my Patreon, along with other extended Hands on Plants episodes and monthly classes. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next visit with inspiring plant people.